Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Class Books with Rashad Missions Against the Bible Study Time. Chapter 2 of 2 Kings, verse 3. The company of the prophets at Bethel came out to Elisha and asked, "Do you know that the Lord is going to take your master from you today?" "Yes, I know," Elisha replied, "but do not speak of it." The company of the prophets, the companies of the prophets, appear to have been located primarily in three areas: Gilgal, Bethel, and Jericho. God evidently sent Elijah to these communities in order to encourage them one last time to announce that Elisha would be their new leader. Verse 9 says, "They had crossed. Elijah said to Elisha, 'Tell me, what can I do for you? For I am taken from you. Let me inherit a double portion of your spirit.' Elisha replied." Double portion of your spirit. That means the term double portion does not necessarily mean twice the spiritual power of Elijah. It refers to, rather, father-son relationship where the firstborn son received twice the inheritance the other sons received. Elisha was asking his spiritual father to give him an abundant measure of his prophetic spirit in order that he might carry on Elijah's mission. God granted Elisha's request, knowing that the young prophet was willing to remain faithful to him in the face of the spiritual, moral, and doctrinal apostasy all around him. Verse 11. As they were walking along and talking together, suddenly a chariot of fire and horses appeared and separated the two of them. Elijah went up to heaven in a whirlwind. Elisha saw this and cried out, my father, the chariots, the horsemen of Israel." Elisha saw him no more. He took hold of his own clothes and tore them apart. Chariots of fire, horses of fire. Elijah was taken to heaven, as was Enoch, without experiencing death. Now, number one, the miraculous transporting of Elijah to heaven was God's emphatic seal of approval on the prophet's work, spirit, and ministry. Elijah had been totally united to the word of God throughout his ministry. To the very last, he had lived for God's honor, stood against the sin and idolatry of an apostate people, encouraged the faithful remnant in Israel. He was given a dramatic escort to heaven in triumph. And secondly, the translation of Elijah and Enoch is like the future catching up of God's faithful people at Christ's return. Verse 23. From there, Elisha went up to Bethel. As he was walking along the road, some youths came out of the town and jeered at him. "Go on up, your bald head. Go on up, your bald head." Jeered at him. That means that some believe that the youths who mocked Elisha, were a gang of organized to oppose his ministry. Though the Hebrew word ne'ar is used as a general word for boy, it's often applied to older youths when used alone. The Hebrew here is narium, quite a little boys. Older youths would undoubtedly have been out in the fields, but it's happening even today. This outsider coming into a village attracted a group of small boys. These children may have heard their parents mock the news that Elijah had gone up to heaven, possibly saying, if Elisha said that, then let him show us how it is done. Let him go on up, the bald head. The mockery against the prophet demonstrated disdain for the Lord himself. Verse 24, it says, "He turned around and looked at him and called down a curse on them in the name of the Lord. Then 2 bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 of the youths. A curse on them in the name of the Lord." This means that to avenge the Lord's honor, Elisha pronounced on them the divine judgment expressed in the covenant law of blessings and curses. God himself judged the depraved children by sending the 2 bears. The judgment at Bethel was a warning to Israel that God's covenant curses await them if they persisted rebelling against God. Note that the bears injured the boys, but apparently did not kill them. All right, so that's it for tonight. I'll get back to this on tomorrow, chapter 3, 2 Kings. Until then, have a blessed night.